The Cycle Show, brought to you by ChainReactionCycles.com. Well, people come to cycling from all sorts of directions, and our next guest got interested in the sport precisely because of a bike fitting like the one we've just seen. He's living proof that cycling is cool at the moment, because they don't come much cooler than someone who's a pop star, songwriter and actor, and also a very dedicated cyclist with some of the toughest mountain climbs in the world already ticked off and proudly sitting on his cycling CV. It's Spandau Ballet's Gary Kemp. Gary, tell us the story about how you get interested in cycling.
Well, it's my friend, the broadcaster, Robert Elms, and we've always sort of had a sort of sartorial competition between each other, especially in suits. And I went for dinner with him about 5 years ago, and he said, I had a 3-hour fitting today. My God, what kind of Uber suit is this, you know? And he said, no, it's for a bike. And, you know, he spoke to me a bit about road racing, road riding. I'd already been cycling anyway, but not to that sort of extent. And then when I got home that night, he sent me a link for a particularly cool cycling brand of clothing with lots of very sexy black and white photographs. And I thought, I want to be in this gang. But I'd always been mountain walking before. That was my big buzz. And I think the aesthetics meets endorphins. I find the equivalent rush in road cycling.
And particularly mountain climbing on a bike. Let's talk about some of the climbs that you managed to tick off.
Well, this year we just did the Pyrenees, so we went from the Atlantic to the Med, across most of the big ones, Circle of Death.
Did you die on it, or did you?
Well, we actually split it up. We did the Obisque on on one day, at the end of one day, and we did the rest on the second day. So it's cheating somewhat. Last year I did Chamonix down to Nice, across the Alps, and Ventoux, and. You know, the thing is, if you're into football, you can't play at the Nou Camp. If you're into cricket, you can't play at Lord's. If you're into cycling, you can ride on these hills with the ghosts of giants, you know, and I think that's what's so fantastic about it.
Do you have a favourite of all the climbs that you've been up so far?
Well, I think Ventoux is really wonderful because it stands alone and it has this incredible view when you come out of the trees at Chalet Reynard, and I think that has a great deal of myth and legend about it, and I love that one.
You've also been on the Giro d'Italia as well, Gary, and you had a pretty special seat for that this year.
Yeah, I was in one of the VIP cars, you know, fortunately, and they're driven by ex-pros. So the guy driving our car had won Milan-San Remo in '97, and going downhill at times was absolutely terrifying. What you realise, though, in those cars is it's a tsunami that's going down the road and nothing stands in its way. You just see little kids being dragged out and of course dogs flying across every now and again. But the Mortarola was absolutely terrifying, and it's the steepest thing I've ever seen, and for some reason I just put my name down to do that in the Stelvio next year, so I need to lose about another 10k, I think.
Oh, you're being hard on yourself there. What is it about cycling for you that really appeals to me? You obviously lead a fairly stressful life at times when you're on tour and everything else. Is it just the escapism of it? Well,
as I said, I think the aesthetics and endorphins, that combination. The camaraderie. I like cycling on my own. I love that. But eventually it's being with a bunch of people that I like, pushing ourselves to the limit, and then talking about it endlessly. There's so much to talk about. So I guess cycle talking is what I really love.
You had a fair amount to talk about last night. I know you were at a fairly exclusive party after the men's Olympic road race. Who were you with and what was said there?
David was there. Actually, Cadell Evans arrived very late, probably 12 hours late for the Australian team. And
I hope you said that to him.
You know, I think they believed they could do it even if they had up to 2 minutes of a break to catch coming off of the hill. But what they didn't account for is that the Germans wouldn't play game, and that they would be absolutely exhausted trying to keep up at the front. You know, it's easy to say there should have been a plan B and that maybe someone like Miller should have gone off into the break and done it on his own, but that was never in their mind, and it was always to look after Cav and bring it home for him.
Do you think if you'd started cycling a little bit earlier, you would have fancied racing and being competitive?
No, you know what, I mean, the music, you know, music and cycling have a similarity for me. They put me in the moment. You know, in music, I'm always thinking about the next sort of 8 bars, and in cycling, it's the next 8 meters.
The Cycle Show, brought to you by ChainReactionCycles.com.